Huge bombshell at Golden State Warriors. Fans in shock about what happened today. If you're a Golden State fan, you probably woke up today with your heart in your hands, wondering what's going on with this team. I know exactly how you feel. We suffer with every bombshell, every board decision, every sign that this era may be coming to an end. But don't worry. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you, without further ado, what really happened, what this changes for the Warriors' future, and, most importantly, whether it's still worth believing. So stay with me until the end, because you need to hear this. Before we continue, quickly, if you're a true fan of the Warriors and don't want to miss out on any bombshells like this, here's what you should do now. Subscribe to the channel because there's content about Golden State here every single day. Enjoy and leave a like because this shows YouTube that the Warriors fans are huge here in Brazil and helps me bring you even more news. And hey, activate the bell to receive everything that happens behind the scenes, trades, injuries, rumors. You will always be one of the first to know. Once that's done, let's move on to the video, because what I'm going to show you now could totally change the way you see the future of the Golden State Warriors. Let me talk to you as if we were side by side, watching another Warriors game and analyzing everything that is happening around this team that we have followed for so many years. What is now circulating behind the scenes at the NBA is not just another rumor. It's one of those stories that, if they really come to fruition, could completely change the direction of the franchise for years to come. We're talking about a possible move that could shake up not only the Bay Area, but also Sacramento and the entire league landscape. You've probably seen something here, another there, a few comments lost on social media, perhaps a discreet note on an American portal. But when we start to put the pieces together, the picture becomes very clear. There is a real possibility that Domantas Sabonis, all-star center for the Sacramento Kings, will once again enter the Golden State Warriors' radar. And I want to walk with you through it all, step by step. No rush, but no messing around. Why isn't this rumor just another one? Before talking about negotiation, we need to understand the context. No big trade in the NBA happens out of nowhere. There is always an accumulation of signs, previous decisions, mistakes, successes, cycles that end. In the case of the Kings, this cycle appears to be coming to an end. During a recent period, Sacramento achieved something rare in its recent history, exciting its own fans. That phase of the so-called Beam Team made fans believe that finally, the team had found a way. The combination of a dynamic attack, a more confident environment, and an identity on the court made the team return to the playoffs and regain some respect in the league. But that flame didn't last as long as imagined. Bold moves were made, big bets were placed on the table, but the definitive leap never came. Little by little, the cracks began to appear. Irregular results, difficulties in decisive moments, defensive problems that insisted on reappearing when it mattered most. Until, at a certain point, the board had to face reality. Perhaps that project, as it was set up, had reached its limit. De'Aaron Fox leaves the scene. Mike Brown is no longer the commander, and that offensive scheme, carefully designed around an extremely creative pivot, no longer makes so much sense. Who is right in the middle of all this? Domantas Sabonis. How Sabonis became the center of the problem and the solution. To understand the weight of Sabonis's name, it's worth going back in time a few years. There was a time when the Kings had De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton on the roster at the same time. Two young, talented point guards with all-star potential and the ability to lead a franchise. Keeping both was the dream. Building around both, however, did not seem feasible. The board then made one of the most notable recent decisions. They gave up Halliburton and brought in Sabonis in an exchange with the Indiana Pacers. At the time, it seemed like a very smart move. Sabonis was coming off strong seasons, being called up to the All-Star game with high average points and rebounds, as well as a rare passing quality for someone his size. For a long time, the Fox-Sabonis duo worked very well. Under the command of Mike Brown, the attack passed through the hands of Sabonis. He received the ball at his elbow, at the top of the box, on the perimeter, and from there he activated cutters, found free shooters, and punished inattentive defenses. He became a constant double-double machine, combining scoring, rebounding, and assisting at a level that few centers in the league can sustain. The point is that in the NBA, it is not enough produce numbers. It is necessary to transform this into consistent consistent victories, into strong playoff campaigns, into real competitiveness against the big candidates for the title. And that was precisely when the Kings project began to falter. The aesthetics of the game were pleasant, Sabonis's numbers were impressive, but the team was unable to make a definitive leap. Over time, less than expected results paved the way for something inevitable: profound changes. Today, with Fox off the board, Brown away from command, and the team leaning towards a rebuild, Sabonis appears to be an elite player fit into a context that no longer matches his game. He continues producing, but with a smaller impact. His scoring has decreased, his assists don't have the same shine, and the current scheme doesn't leverage him like it used to. This is when the market takes a closer look. A player of this level, on a team that is heading towards rebuilding, naturally becomes the target of conversations, speculation, and calls from other franchises. Why is Golden State in this story? Now let's bring this conversation to the side that interests you and me most: the Warriors. When we talk about Golden State, we are talking about a franchise that has built its recent identity on three very clear pillars: ball movement, movement without the ball, and intelligent reading of the game. It's not just about having good pitchers. It's about having players who act almost like extensions of the system itself. Athletes capable of passing, cutting, blocking, reading the defense, reacting quickly, and punishing the opponent in the shortest possible time. And it is exactly in this type of structure that a player like Sabonis tends to flourish. He is not a static pivot who only takes up space in the paint waiting for a lob or a traditional post-up. It's a game organizer, a facilitator, someone who sees the passing lines, anticipates the movement of his teammates, and turns ordinary ball possessions into attacks that are very difficult to score. Think about the following image: Stephen Curry cutting between blocks, as he has done his entire life. A pivot at the top of the box, receiving the ball, ready to decide whether to deliver a dribble handoff, whether to make a quick pass to the perimeter, whether to find a cut in the back of the defense. Klay Thompson, well-positioned in the corner or on the wing, waiting for that precisely calculated surplus. Andrew Wiggins attacking the basket at the right time, knowing that if he clears himself, the ball will arrive. Now replace that ideal center with Sabonis. The fit starts to make a lot of sense, doesn't it? This is not just an exercise in imagination. It's exactly the type of game in which Sabonis has already shown himself to be extremely efficient when he had a system aligned to his characteristics. The difference in the case of the Warriors is that the level of the surrounding parts is higher. The system is already proven to be a winner, and the team's tactical culture highly values players who think about the game. The trade package. What could be at stake? Every time we talk about possible exchanges, there is one inevitable point: the price. If Sabonis is available, even discreetly, it won't be a close call. Sacramento, as it enters a rebuild, doesn't want to simply get rid of a good player. You want to transform this asset into a set of pieces that make sense for a new project. This is where the Warriors become an interesting partner. The franchise has a veteran core still ready to compete, but it also has young players with market value, capable of arousing the interest of a team in rebuilding. Players like Moses Moody, a young wing with defensive potential and a developing three-point shot. Brandon Podziemski, who showed maturity, game vision, and energy since the beginning of his career. Quinton Post, a young center in development, who best fits into the timeline of a team looking to the future. Not to mention Jonathan Kuminga, who deserves a separate paragraph. Kuminga is the type of player that makes any general manager look twice. Athletic, versatile, with flashes of talent that make one think of a very high ceiling. At the same time, he has not yet established himself as the piece that many imagined in a team ready to fight for the title now. For a rebuilding team, however, this type of player is extremely attractive. For a team trying to maximize Stephen Curry's final years at a high level, savoring potential may not be as important as bringing in someone who delivers immediate impact at a high level. A trade package, therefore, could involve a combination of these youngsters plus draft picks in exchange for Sabonis. It's the type of negotiation that requires courage. It requires accepting that you are giving up part of the future to try to maximize the present. The impact on the court. What would change for the Warriors? Let's think now about what Sabonis would actually bring to the team, going beyond labels. Last season, and he produced numbers that place him alongside the most complete centers in the league in terms of statistics, high scoring, rebounds in volume, assists at an unusual level for big men. He is not just someone who helps, is someone who actively participates in creation. In attack, his presence would have three clear impacts. Consistent indoor scoring. The Warriors, for some time now, have not had a center who, night after night, is a real threat close to the basket. This changes the way defenses behave. With Sabonis receiving the ball in the box, opponents would have to choose, collapse the defense and open up space for shooters, or score one-on-one and run the risk of conceding easy points. Creation of plays from the box and from the top of the perimeter, Sabonis is capable of starting plays. He can receive the ball at the head of the box, wait for his teammates to move, and deliver precise passes for cuts, shots, or handoffs. On a team where Curry and other players move all the time without the ball, this is gold. Rebounds and tempo control. One of the Warriors' recurring problems in some seasons was the control of rebounds, especially defensive ones. Sabonis is among the best rebounders in the league. This means fewer second chances for opponents, more transition opportunities for a team that historically punishes running the court. Of course, there is a sensitive point in this package: defense. Sabonis is not a natural rim protector. He's not that pivot who changes shots just by presence. He's also not the most versatile defender when it comes to switching on the perimeter. However, in an environment with Draymond Green still able to organize and communicate the defense, a well-trained defensive system, and tactical adjustments that may hide some weaknesses, it is possible to minimize this impact and maximize what it offers in attack and rebounds. The central question becomes, does what positive he delivers make up for what he takes away? And, looking at the offensive fit, it is difficult not to see a significant gain: the time factor. Curry's window. There is another element that cannot be left out of our analysis: time. Stephen Curry still plays at a very high level, but no player, no matter how special he is, can beat the clock. Each season takes on greater weight when we know that we are approaching the final stretch of the peak of a star of this size. The Warriors are at a point where they need to decide whether to invest heavily in movements that keep them in contention for titles now, or slow down and think about a gradual transition, accepting that the team may fluctuate while developing its young players further. A player like Sabonis, at 28 years old, fits exactly into this ideal middle ground. He is someone who is already ready to contribute at a very high level, but still has several prime years ahead of him. It's not just an immediate solution, it's a piece that can sustain competitiveness for a few seasons. This aligns the remainder of Curry's elite career, the franchise's desire to remain relevant, and the fans' interest in seeing a competitive team, and not just one that is respectful of history. The message for the league and the fans. If such a trade were to happen, it would communicate something very clear to the rest of the NBA. The Golden State Warriors are still committed to winning right now. It would not be a superficial movement made to generate headlines. It would be a declaration of intent. We are willing to give up part of the uncertain future in exchange for a stronger present and a real chance to return to the highest level of competitiveness. For other players in the league, this also has an impact. Athletes looking at possible destinations pay attention to franchises that are not afraid to make decisions. Seeing the Warriors acting this way reinforces the image of an organization that does not accommodate itself. Within the cast, the message would be similar. The players would realize that the board is willing to invest, to move, to try whatever is necessary so that they have the best possible structure to compete. And you, what would you do if you were in charge? Now I want to bring you to the center of this conversation. If you were in the decision-making chair, would you agree to put together a package with promising young players and draft picks to bring in Sabonis? Would you feel comfortable giving up, for example, players like Moody, Podziemski, and perhaps Kuminga in exchange for an all-star center ready to contribute immediately? Do you believe that Sabonis's offensive qualities, scoring, rebounding, playmaking, outweigh his doubts regarding defense? Or would you prefer to keep the young core intact and Gamble on slower development, even if it means running the risk of wasting some of Curry's best final years? There is no simple answer. There are strong arguments on both sides. This is exactly why but it's so engaging. My view on all this speaking to you with complete transparency. I see this possibility as one of those moments when great franchises differentiate themselves from others, changing in details. It's not about looking for an impactful name just to please public opinion. It's about looking at the game system, the talent available on the market, the phase the franchise is in, and the window of time we still have with our main player at a very high level, and realize that there is a rare but possible fit. Domantas Sabonis is a player who raises the team's offensive level, solves historical rebound problems, creates new tactical possibilities, and fits into a system based on intelligence and movement. Yes, it brings along defensive questions. Yes, the cost in young talent would be high, but for a team that still has a chance to strive for something big, it could be exactly the kind of calculated risk worth taking. Where do we go from here? If you want to continue following each development of this possible soap opera, each new rumor, each deeper analysis about fits, rotations, and real impact on the court, I want you to join me here on the channel. The idea is always the same. Talk to you as a fan, analyze carefully, without cheap exaggeration, but also without ignoring the weight that a move of this size would have for the future of the Golden State Warriors. Now I want to read what you think. Write in the comments. Would you make this switch? What package would you consider fair? Who would you absolutely not mess with? Let's turn this analysis into a real debate, with respect, opinion, and above all, passion for this team that we have followed for so many years. If the next few weeks really bring news, you can be sure I will be here, breaking down every detail with you, step by step. Thank you for making it this far, for taking the time to discuss the future of the Warriors, and for being a part of this community. We continue together. And this is where I want you to stop for a second and think with me. If this movement really happens, we won't just be talking about another season for the Warriors. We will be talking about a change of route in the recent history of the franchise. Either the board steps down and embraces this type of bold exchange, or runs the risk of seeing Curry's golden window closing, while others lift the trophy that could be ours. The next decisions could define whether we will experience another great chapter of the dynasty, or whether we will spend years looking back saying we could have gone further. And that's precisely why I'm going to continue here, breaking down every rumor, every tactical adjustment, every possible exchange, and every real impact on the court, so that you're never left out of this conversation. Now, if you want to delve even deeper into this type of content, don't stop halfway. Once you finish this video, go straight to the pinned comment and click on the Warriors Analysis playlist. There I gathered videos in which I delve into the exchange scenario, tactical arrangements, the future of the franchise, the impact of young people, board decisions, and everything that a fan who really follows the Warriors' day-to-day life needs to know. Marathon this playlist, comment on each video what you think, and come be part of this continuous analysis that we built together here on the channel. If this possible deal for Sabonis blows up once and for all, I guarantee you who watch the Warriors Analysis playlist will be several steps ahead of any other fan when it comes to understanding what is really happening with the Golden State Warriors.